Okay, just before we crack into today's video, let me explain how you can help us. More and more Kiwis are waking up to the fact that New Zealand is in big trouble right now. So how can we turn this country around? The answer is through education. What does that mean? Well, it means exposing more and more people to our videos. It's as simple as that. Just click on the subscribe button on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and you'll be subscribed. What happens then? Well, when you subscribe, YouTube sends our videos out to more Kiwis. That's how it works. Subscribing is free. You'll never be charged anything. It's just that simple. So please do it and then enjoy the rest of the video. Thank you very much for watching. Just by subscribing, you can play a big part in the solution to fixing New Zealand. Well done, you. Well, hi, you beautiful New Zealanders. We're carrying on our series, 21 Reasons David Seymour's Treaty Principles Bill was a huge success. This is part 4. So what's in the box? In the last 3 videos in this series, I gave 15 reasons why David Seymour's Treaty Principles Bill was a huge success. So in today's video, I'm going to give some more reasons, so watch. First one is that corruption is on the rise. The Treaty Principles Bill has been a huge success because through it, the public's been alerted to corruption generally. How does this work? Well, when the public was made aware of the corruption inside the Treaty Principles Bill Select Committee process, they asked, where else in this country is corruption happening? In other words, through the Treaty Principles Bill, people became sensitized to look for other corruption. Many have begun to look for evidence of corruption inside New Zealand. So what did they find? Well, New Zealand has slipped to the 4th place in the worldwide rankings of the least corrupt countries, with the country achieving its worst placing ever on Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index. I didn't even know these things existed, but that organization does exist. What do they say? Transparency International New Zealand, that's TIN's chief executive, Julie Haggai, said the decline in the country's underlying score metric over the past decade was more concerning than its loss of rank. She said, mate, this is a worry. Quote, New Zealand's response to increasing corruption pressure over several years has been lackluster and complacent. So in other words, the government doesn't even worry about it. They're saying, look, don't worry about corruption. That's no problem. That's what she's saying. She told the Herald, concern about New Zealand and its declining score were a worry, and international reviews largely focused on accountability and transparency measures or lack thereof. So there was no transparency measures or lack thereof to actually check corruption. She says this, it's not so much individual corruption crimes, but it's the transparency of the government, see? And limitations on the scope of the Official Information Act. Now, I've done lots of OIA requests, and often there's a lot of redactions. You don't actually, they won't reveal too much to you. They say it's official information, they're giving you information you can't get anywhere else, but they redact so much it's useless. That's the reality. So Julie's onto something here. So what is the most obvious corruption which has come to light as a result of the Treaty Principles Bill? Well, the answer is, like everyone knows, that the final result of the Treaty Principles Bill Select Committee, 90% against and only 10% for, was a great big lie. How do we know this? Well, the polls taken just before the Treaty Principles Bill process was opened show a totally different result. Watch. So there are the 3 polls that were taken just before the Select Committee process. It's obvious National rigged the Treaty Principles Bill Select Committee process to get the result LUXON desperately needed. This is the kind of corruption in government Julie Haggai is talking about. See, so there on those 3 graphs, you got the October 24, the Courier poll. More people were supporting the bill than against it, and then the December 2024, there was more people against the bill than for it, and then again in December 24, the ACT did its own Courier poll, and it found more people for the bill than against it. But if you look at those 3, they're not too far apart all the way through those 3 graphs. But now look at the Select Committee results. Look at that in red, the red bar. It's absolutely unbelievable. It doesn't reflect the 3 polls at all. And so what does that tell you? Corruption. Yeah. So the Treaty Principles Bill has been a huge success because it's exposed the extent of racial division in our country. This is the 17th reason David Seymour's bill was a huge success. When the Treaty Principles Bill surfaced, Maori activists fired up to new levels, radicalizing other Maori to join in. See how this worked? So basically what you have in New Zealand now is you have New Zealand's divided into 2 groups, Maori and the rest. Tribal leaders came running, as did organisations like the Iwi Chairs Forum. On the other side, organisations like Stop Co-Governance, New Zealand Centre for Political Research, Hobson's Pledge, Democracy Action, Taxpayers Union, the Free Speech Union and many others also fired up to new levels. The media, as it were, threw their weight behind the activist Maori cause. Both sides sought to win ordinary Kiwis over to their side. So the race war has become red hot in this country. And this Treaty Principles Bill has really exposed the racial division that already was. And it's not that David Seymour has created it, it was just there and it's now come out. That's what's happened. The Treaty Principles Bill was the catalyst for this. LUXON could fix this division with a referendum once and for all. He could then say this is what the majority of New Zealanders wanted, and that would be the end of the matter. But no. But here's the thing. It's not that he lacks fortitude and courage to do this, no. He won't trigger a referendum for one simple reason. He's for the Maori activist cause, plain and simple. That's it. It's not a mystery anymore. I've compiled a 10-video series on how we know LUXON is an activist supporting the Maori cause. So I'll put a link to this series in the description of this video. You can have a look at it for yourself. What's the 18th reason David Seymour's bill was a huge success? Well, the Treaty Principles Bill has been a huge success because it's exposed, generally speaking, the low quality of MPs. What do I mean? Well, as I have pointed out, in the second reading of the bill on the 10th of April 2025, the debate in the chamber lasted 2 hours. In those 2 hours, everyone attacked David Seymour and his bill, yet not one lucid argument was presented against the bill. Remember, that's what David said. They were all just opinions or slurs against David. For example, the Maori MP Hannah Clark gave one of the weakest speeches in 2 hours, yet she was hailed as amazing by the media. Take a listen.
This speech has been the most daunting speech I've ever had to write, and I've said, oh no, what am I going to say now? How are we supposed to voice the 270,000 written submissions, the 13,600 oral submissions, the 300,000 signatures in the petition, the biggest hekoi with 100,000 footsteps marching to Parliament? How do we piece this all together in a 5-minute speech? Here's how. We're not going to talk about the Treaty Principles Bill today. This bill was an undebatable and a non-negotiable debate. And the whole world knows our view on it. The real issue is not this bill, nor is it doing a haka or practicing our Indigenous customs in Parliament. The real problem is that this institution, this House, has only ever recognised one partner, one culture, one language from one treaty. When will the rules of this House acknowledge the laws of this land, tikanga, and te tiriti o Waitangi? That is the real question of privilege here. At our darkest hour, we could have chosen to fight this, but we chose to survive this. This bill hasn't been stopped. This bill has been absolutely annihilated.
Well, there you go. There are so many false statements made in this speech, it's difficult to know where to start, actually. So here are just some examples. She views the treaty as a partnership when it's not a partnership. She thinks Maori did not cede sovereignty when they did cede sovereignty. She is quite wrong about this and obviously has no understanding of the concept of sovereignty. When Maori ceded sovereignty in 1840, they gave up the right to govern. She doesn't understand this. They gave that right completely and forever to the British. That's in Article 1 of the treaty. If today's Parliament wants to rule that only English be spoken in Parliament, well, they can. Yeah, why? Well, in 1840, the Maori chiefs gave the British the right to make such a ruling, period. Maori have just got to suck it up, because they gave the British the right to do these things. If Parliament wants to ban Maori law, that's tikanga, they can. Why? Well, in 1840, the Maori chiefs gave the British the right to ban whatever they want. They're in charge. They're in the driver's seat. They're the government. If Parliament wants to ban Maori practicing their culture in Parliament, they can. In 1840, the Maori chiefs gave the British the right to do this. Parliament does not have to consult with Maori over anything. Maori got to get this. And also, Parliament needs to put its foot down and say, no, this is the way we're doing things, mate. This is what you've signed up to. This is what your Maori chiefs, 540 of them, signed up to in 1840, so you've got to suck it up. In 1840, the Maori chiefs gave the British the right to not consult. I suppose her biggest clangor would have to be when she said this bill has not been stopped, the bill has been annihilated. We think she's joking, but you know what? She's not. Obviously, she has not read the polls, so I've just shown you those polls. And that doesn't tell me that the bill is dead. Look at that. In fact, 2 of the 3 polls say more people support the bill than are against it. Well, hello. The poll results indicate the very opposite of what Hannah claimed. Those who support the bill were hardly annihilated. They're there well and truly, and this bill is not going away. The truth is, Those who support the bill, but going by the polls, are in the majority. So who says so? Well, look at this. This guy Jeff Neal's a very important person in New Zealand. He runs an organisation called the Facts.nz. He says, despite widespread claims that New Zealand opposes the Treaty Principles Bill, detailed analysis from the Facts.nz, that's his website, you need to go and see that and support Jeff, suggests the opposite of what Hannah Clark said in her speech. Robust polling consistently shows 2-to-1 Kiwis support the legislation, despite 90% of the public submissions opposing it, and most media have failed to explain the gap, see, because the media is on the Maori activist side. In a comprehensive release ahead of the second reading vote, researcher Jeff Neal lays out the polling from Courier, Freshwater Strategy, Varian and others showing strong public backing for both the bill's principles and a referendum across nearly all major voting blocs. According to Neal, the robust polling we have available shows support is especially high among national. 4-to-1 National Party voters support the bill. 4-to-1. See what LUXON's doing? He's going right in the face of all his party, all his voters, people voting for National. They're going to ditch National if he keeps going like this. New Zealand First, 5-to-1, even more. 5 people for the bill, 1 against it. ACT voters, 2 for it versus 1 against it, with even Labour and Green voters evenly split, see? So there's a massive swell of voters in favour of this bill. Note, a third poll testing each of the 3 principles individually on their final wording in the bill suggests ACT voter support may have climbed much higher than 2-to-1. This is Jeff Neal talking. So there you go. So what's the conclusion here? Hannah Clark is not an isolated MP living in a parallel universe. The entire National Party think the treaty is a partnership. Not one National MP has spoken out against this idea. Most don't do their research before speaking. They just make up their own reality. They live in a parallel universe. Facts are not important to them. That this is reality has become clear during the Treaty Principles Bill process. You know what? How can a country grow and prosper with MPs in this calibre running the country? The answer is it can't and won't to its fullest potential, and that's the truth of the matter. So what's the 19th reason David Seymour's bill was a huge success? Well, the Treaty Principles Bill has shone a light on the intelligence and morality of Green voters. A poll was conducted right in the middle of the Treaty Principles process. Did you know that? Green Party support went up and ACT support went down. Can you believe that? Well, it's a sad indictment on our country's intelligence and morality when, despite David's sterling effort, the despicable Greens continue to poll higher than ACT. So the Treaty Principles Bill has been a huge success because it's exposed the truth about the state of our nation. See, it's shone a light on the state of the whole country. The Greens appear packed with weirdos, kleptomaniacs, paedophiles, lesbians and rainbow warriors. It appears that more of the public like them than people like the ACT Party. So what does this tell us? It tells us New Zealand is rotting under the weight of treaty fraud, Maorification, racial division, general corruption, the decline of Christianity and increased drug use, just to name a few. There's a lot of contributors to this big problem. For many people, their moral compass is spinning and they can't discern right from wrong, good from bad anymore. In turn, this tells us that the country needs a complete reset. Absolutely. We're in big trouble here. So what's the 20th reason David Seymour's bill was a huge success? Well, the Treaty Principles Bill process has exposed how the courts, the Waitangi Tribunal, bureaucrats and MPs have hijacked New Zealand. What do I mean? Well, in the 1960s and 70s, New Zealand was economically prosperous, racially united and harmonious, and people were generally happy and content. That's the truth. Then came the Treaty of Waitangi Act 1975. From 1975 till today, the courts, the bureaucrats, the Waitangi Tribunal, and certain MPs have used their influence to hijack literally every aspect and institution in our country. Maorification has become like a cancer. I can't think of one area of society which has been left untouched. The great thing about the Treaty Principles Bill is that it has alerted us to where the people who have been treasonous to New Zealand, like rats, are nesting. The courts, the bureaucrats inside Parliament, the tribunal, and certain politicians. We've been able to identify, as it were, who exactly is driving Maorification. These 4, the cancerous quadruplet I call them, have come into sharp focus during the Treaty Principles Bill process. Along with history-ignorant MPs and the media, we've been able to identify where the enemies of the state are hunkered down. People like Jim Bolger, People like Doug Graham, people like John Key, people like Chris Finlayson, the worst of the worst. And now lately, the new one to join the stable is Chris LUXON. These are all destroyers of New Zealand, these people. Well, why is this helpful? Well, the phrase know your enemy is often attributed to the Chinese general and philosopher Sun Tzu, author of The Art of War. You've probably heard of him. He famously stated, if you know the enemy and you know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles, end quote. Essentially, understanding who the enemy is crucial for strategic success. The Treaty Principles Bill has helped us understand who is driving the destruction of our country. You know what? And that's got to be good, because then we know who we're targeting and who the heck's to blame for this. So what's the 21st and final reason David Seymour's bill was a huge success? Well, the Treaty Principles Bill has exposed how Maori activists twist the truth about the cause of division. So just take a moment to watch that, look at that cartoon on the right hand side of your screen there and just digest that, drink that in, because this is what this one's about. Well, how so? Well, LUXON, an activist, said the bill was divisive, and then Waititi and Jackson said the same. Notice how LUXON, Waititi and Jackson are all on the same page, all hardened activists. In fact, all the activists were saying, this bill is causing division. But think this through, will you? How could advocating that the government has the right to govern, Seymour's Principle 1, that everyone's property be secure, Principle 2, and all people are to be treated equally, Principle 3, to be divisive? Now, seriously, how could those three ever be considered divisive by anyone? Well, the answer is they can't. But activists did object to them, including LUXON. Why? As I've pointed out in Reason 14 of this series, they have hidden agendas, and what are they? Well, they want to take over the country. And these principles would stop that. Okay guys, that's enough for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Now we need your help with something. This is important. We have produced some great flyers and brochures which we want to get into the hands of all New Zealanders. So we need to go around the mainstream media. They're not going to help. In fact, they're making things a lot worse. So we have to go around them. And we need your help to make this happen. We can't do this without you. So what are we talking about? First, there is our business cards. They're only 3 cents each plus courier to get them to you. Then there is our latest booklet called The Psychology of Takeover, 19 strategies Maori activists are using to take over the country. It's 80 pages and packs a huge punch. So they're cheap, they're $3, and they're absolutely fantastic if you want to get a handle on what's actually happening in New Zealand. Then we have a few thousand of our original Stop Co-Governance booklets left over from my tour in 2023. Remember these? You'll remember we printed 550,000 of these. Well, these are now free because we realized that only about 1/3 of New Zealand houses got this booklet last when I did my tour, and so we want to get to the other 2/3. So if you do a few streets around where you live, that would be absolutely phenomenal, and they are free now. Then we have our MACA, that's Marine and Coastal Act brochure 2, which alert people to the loss of our beaches. You know, we're in danger of losing all the beaches around New Zealand. The text is written by Graham Adams, who's a great author. These are now free. And then we have our beautiful bumper sticker, which we've just made. And why are we doing this? Well, New Zealand's identity is under threat. We know that. First activists have and are still trying to change the name of New Zealand to Aotearoa. We don't want that. We must oppose this. This is rubbish. Where's the referendum saying that we want to change the name of the country? There was none. It was just forced on us. Second, Maori sovereignty flags are appearing more and more all over the place, and they're just treason. So we've got to get these bumper stickers out. So we've printed some awesome bumper stickers. They're $3 each, and they measure 21.5 by 6.5, so you can see how big that would be on your car. To get any of these free products, all you need to do is pay for the courier to get them to you. For the products that cost something, like the bumper stickers or the little psychology booklet, it's the cost plus the courier to get them to you. So to order any of these products, just use this email address, cards@stopcogovernance.kiwi, and we'd love to hear from you. Finally, if you want to access all the videos we've ever made, including all our most viewed and most popular videos, and have them all in one place, which is what people are asking for, then just type in this address into your browser. There it is there, https www.youtube.com/@stopcogovernance, and you'll find it goes straight to our channel. Then what you do is save this address to your computer as a favorite. Job done. Well done. Then you've got them all in one place forever. And all the new ones that are coming in get placed into that address, so you won't miss anything. Okay, last thing, please, oh please, don't forget to subscribe. When you subscribe, You'll get the latest videos straight into your inbox. You'll never miss a video, which is great. You'll link up with like-minded people all over New Zealand, and that's very, very stimulating to have meet up with all these people who think like you. You'll be telling YouTube, I like these videos, and they will respond by advertising our videos to more Kiwis for free. It's incredible what they do, but it just relies on you replying to comments and making comments and liking things and sharing things and activity. That's what it is. It's just activity on our channel. And turning New Zealand around is simply a matter of reaching more Kiwis with the truth. So just click on the subscribe button on the bottom right hand side of your screen. The little yellow arrow is showing you where it is, and you'll be subscribed. Okay. See you next time. You guys are awesome.